In a change that's already going to bring major criticism, rightfully so, to her campaign, Elizabeth Warren has decided to finally start accepting Super PAC money. So now it's not as if the money from the Super PAC goes directly to the candidate, but it allows these political action committees to go and air ads on behalf of candidates. So now the group that is backing Elizabeth Warren is called Persist-PAC, and it was just created to support her presidential campaign, according to a new report by BuzzFeed. So now they noted that in this, it was a change so sudden that Warren's own campaign website still says that she rejects all super PACs and would disavow any super PAC form to support her in the Democratic primary. So understand, that's what her website still says. And yet, just today, she comes out and says, actually, you know what? Super PAC, perfectly fine. In fact, I'll show you the video here. But first, look, man, here we go. Elizabeth Warren making another terrible campaign decision. And it unfortunately is happening so soon after she dominated in that Nevada debate. Look, I call it fair. I'm for Bernie Sanders. You guys know this. But I think she absolutely crushed in that last debate, and she won. Bernie Sanders did, of course, good to be expected from the front runner. Shrugged off some attacks, even some from Elizabeth Warren, but Warren really shined in that debate. And so, fresh off that performance, what does she go and do? Well, she goes and attacks Bernie Sanders and then starts taking Super PAC money. Ridiculous. All right, now, here, let me give the reason here that she says that she is now taking Super PAC money. Take a look.
Do you want the Super PAC supporting you to stand? Do you want the Super PAC supporting you to stand down?
So look, the first day I got in this race over a year ago, I said I hope every presidential candidate who comes in will agree. No Super PACs for any of us. I renewed that call dozens of times, and I couldn't get a single Democrat to go along with me. Finally, we reached the point a few weeks ago where all of the men who were still in this race and on the debate stage all had either Super PACs or they were multi-billionaires and could just, rummage around in their sock drawers and find enough money to be able to fund a campaign. And the only people who didn't have them were the two women. And at that point, there are some women around the country who said, that's just not right. So here's where I stand. If all the candidates want to get rid of Super PACs, count me in. I'll lead the charge. But that's how it has to be. It can't be the case that a bunch of people keep them and only one or two don't.
That's how it has to be. I mean, I said I was going to reject Super PACs, and then I decided, since nobody else will join me on that, it's just me and Amy Klobuchar. Well, then I have to take Super PAC money. No, it's the fact that her campaign is actually desperate for money. Even so, after the debate, she raised about $2.8 million. But going into Super Tuesday, you got to understand, Super Tuesday states are pretty expensive to run ads in, especially the market of California. And so she's like, well, I don't have the campaign money. I'm not getting enough. So I'm just going to let my Super PAC do it for me. And so that is a definite shift on that position. And it is born of desperation because her campaign is basically running out of steam. And we're completely honest about that, right? So now my problem here is hypocrisy, because she did say, well, I'm the only one other than, I'm the only other person. I mean, we got a whole bunch of men up there that are taking Super PAC money, and it's just me and Amy Klobuchar that aren't. But wait a minute, you're calling what supports Bernie Sanders Super PACs. Now, hold on here. Now, there is groups that support Bernie Sanders. You have the nonprofit PAC, Our Revolution. Now, Our Revolution can raise unlimited sums of money. That is true. Are they raising it from billionaires? No. It's not a Super PAC. It doesn't have to disclose the donors, but if it did, the average donation would likely be around $18. From regular people like Joe down the street. Now, Sanders is also supported by another, what they call big money group. No, it's the Nurses United. right? That is the National Nurses Union. Now, that is a super PAC, and they did spend $5 million backing him in 2016. But here's the thing: none of the money in these PACs are corporate money. These are not corporate PACs. I mean, if you think that our revolution is the same as Joe Biden's PAC, for example, well, that's preposterous. That's not true at all. You think the nurses are raising money from big corporate donors? No. A majority of their money actually comes from union dues from their membership. They haven't actually also in the cycle made any independent expenditures on behalf of Bernie Sanders. So they haven't. Sunrise Movement also being pointed out as another so-called big dark money group. Oh, right. Actually, most of the donations from the Sunrise Movement come from the Sunrise PAC, which gets donations from individuals of about less than $1,000. So these are people who do care about the environment that are giving to Sunrise. So now, what is Sunrise doing with their money? Are they doing independent expenditures on favor of Bernie Sanders? And by the way, I don't even know if our revolution is doing any independent expenditures in favor of Bernie Sanders, right? And that's also important. So now, what Sunrise Movement is spending their money on is on travel, which, by the way, at every single Bernie Sanders rally and every progressive gathering, I have seen Sunrise Movement there. Well, somebody's paying for that. That's, of course, what the group is raising that money for, right? So they spend it on travel, lodging, staff, food, and of course, some Facebook ads. Okay, that are, of course, showcasing the activism of their members. None of that's really independent expenditures. And so, look, this super PAC, by the way, where, Elizabeth Warren is now accepting their help, right? They are planning to run ads. They're planning to run tens of thousands of dollars in ads in Super Tuesday states. So it is actually a lot different than what Bernie Sanders is doing and the groups that support Bernie Sanders is doing. And so that is very important, okay? To compare all this again with Biden's PAC or Pete Buttigieg's wine cave and all the bundlers, it's really ridiculous, okay? I mean, what is Bernie Sanders going to accuse, or I'm sorry, is Elizabeth Warren going to accuse Bernie Sanders of taking donations from Big Poor? I mean, because that's a big group. I mean, made up of people that are like warehouse workers, that work in the Amazon or people from Target or school teachers. You can take it from Big School PAC. No, it's not a thing. It's not a thing. But look, I don't know who's funding Persist PAC, by the way. Could be supporters of Elizabeth Warren. It could be corporate supporters of Elizabeth Warren. I don't necessarily know who, but also could be billionaires. I could definitely imagine somebody like Tom Steyer, if he drops out of the race, putting some money towards Elizabeth Warren. Why? Because, look, Tom Steyer, yes, he made a lot of his money off some fossil fuel investments and things like that, but he's also given to a lot of liberal progressive causes. And so I do not see Tom Steyer giving money to Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders would give it right back. As he has from other millionaire donors and billionaire donors, right? And so it could likely go into Elizabeth Warren's campaign. Because look, Tom Steyer is basically there in South Carolina, and then he's going to drop out. I don't understand why Tom Steyer thinks that he has any sort of path to the nomination, but no, he's not trying. So he's not actually running a real campaign. And so I think it's just to raise some attention, maybe get some of the, split up some of the vote. I don't know. I don't know why Tom Steyer is running. I don't get it. Maybe all he wanted was a selfie with Bernie. Then again, it doesn't make sense that now he's running ads against Bernie. And so, but anyway, look, I'm not going to talk about Tom Steyer anymore. All right. But again, I don't know who's funding Persist PAC. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there are other liberal, minded billionaires who think that Elizabeth Warren is a safer option. Who knows? And by the way, safe I mean as in establishment friendly, more willing to play ball, malleable, right? As we've seen on her calls for Medicare for all, which started as Medicare for all and then went to, well, public option first and then maybe Medicare for all. No. So look, the hypocrisy here is, again, and let me give you a quote here from Elizabeth Warren before. She said, well, okay, it's not a quote here, but it's a quote from an article about Elizabeth Warren. It basically pointed out that when dark money group Women Vote bought ads backing Warren back in Iowa, her campaign disavowed the organization's activities to Politico. The campaign spokesperson said, quote, was not aware of this and asked that those involved immediately stop purchasing advertisements of any kind. Elizabeth Warren believes that democracy is undermined by anonymous dark money attempts to influence voters, whether that influence is meant to help or hurt her candidacy. So that's Elizabeth Warren back in Iowa. Now, she loses Iowa, and she does very poorly in New Hampshire, right? So those first two states, no momentum coming out of that, right? Does terrible. And so she doesn't get the boost. She doesn't get the fundraising. And now, later on, she's like, you know what, those super PACs, not so bad now. Not bad at all. And then, now, Bernie Sanders, again, he addressed his groups as well, because now he's getting criticized from Elizabeth Warren and from Pete Buttigieg as well about this. And he had told Chuck Todd back on February 9th that, quote, I don't really want help from outside groups, but it's legal. What can I do? They're there. I don't control them. So Bernie Sanders is saying, look, they're there. I mean, I don't really want them, but what can I do? And it's true, because super PACs and campaigns are not actually allowed to coordinate it all. And that's what I meant earlier when I was talking about Elizabeth Warren not having control over this either, but she won't disavow. And that is, again, completely opposed to her previous position, whereas Sanders, I think, has always been consistent. He's like, hey, look, I don't take money from billionaires. I don't take money from corporate PACs. And so if they, these groups that are made up of, and this is what's important about it, and he told Chuck Todd, by the way, that a lot of them are nurses, immigration activists, civil rights activists. Those are the people that make up the donors to those PACs that support Bernie. That's the difference, because they're not billionaires. So it's not really a reversal of his position at all. And so it's not the same as comparing it to Biden's super PAC or again, Buttigieg's wine cave. And so that's important. The context is important. And again, we don't know the donors to Persist PAC. And so I guess we got to wait for that to come in, if there is any information from it. We'll have to see. But for me, look, Warren, she's not doing well. So it seems like this is another bad faith attack from somebody who's trying so hard to regain the traction that she has lost. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.